Hello and welcome to Equipped, the career training series brought to you by APU's Career Services. We hope that this video will provide you with the helpful information that you can use for your own job search. Let's get started. In this video, we will be discussing how to construct a quality resume, learn about the necessary elements of a well-written cover letter, and discuss the information necessary for your list of references. First of all, let's discuss the functions of your resume. You know that you need a resume to help get a job, but it does not need to be a comprehensive list of everything you have ever done. Only include those experiences you have that are relevant to the job you are trying to get. Remember that the resume is the first impression the employer will have of you, and they may refer to it during an interview. There are three types of resume formats to consider. The chronological resume lists your experience in reverse chronological order and is the most commonly used format. Second is the functional resume that does not give dates of employment, but instead highlights the skills gained in previous jobs. The third format is a combination of the two previous formats, chronological and functional, where some dates will be on the resume, but skills and abilities are much more prominent. First and foremost, do not include any personal pronouns in your resume. Remove any references such as I and my from the page. Only include relevant information on your resume and take out any unnecessary items. Never provide inaccurate information or exaggerations on your resume. Try to avoid making the page look too crowded. Avoid any spelling errors and never have handwritten changes on your resume. Don't capitalize everything because then nothing catches the reader's eye. For most job types, do not include any personal information such as photos, marital status, or personal history. Be sure that there are no smudges or wrinkles on the paper, and do not include references on the actual resume page itself. There are some things that you do want to be sure to include on your resume. These include the consistent use of headings and font type, the use of action verbs to describe job duties and accomplishments, and accurate information that relates to the position. Be sure that you stress your accomplishments in your work history. To do this, use numbers, data, percentages, etc. when describing your duties. We'll discuss this more later. Be sure to proofread and edit your resume and get feedback from friends before you send it out. The main sections of your resume should include the following information: name and contact information, an objective statement, your education with the current or most recent education listed first, related experience, and special skills if they are related to the job. Other information may be included on your resume, but keep in mind that most resumes for entry-level positions are 1 page in length. Now let's take a closer look at each of these sections on your resume. Here's an example of the name and contact information section. Keep in mind that your name should be the biggest thing on the page. Usually about 16-point font works well. Contact information should include your address, phone, cell phone, and an email address. Be sure to use a professional sounding email address and ensure that your voicemail greeting is professional sounding as well. Here we have an example of a good objective statement. An objective is recommended because it lets the employer know what position you are interested in and why they should take a look at your resume. The objective should be short and concise and should try to include the position you are applying for, the name of the employer, and something about your skills or education that make you ideal for the job. Next, we look at the section on education. As mentioned before, you should list the current program you are in and the expected graduation date first. This can be followed by any other college, university, community college, or trade programs you have previously attended. You do not need to include any information about high school on your resume. Be sure that you spell out the names of degrees you are receiving or received in the past. For example, say Bachelor of Arts rather than BA. Now let's turn our attention to the experience section. You may wish to title this section Related Experience, Work Experience, or simply Experience, depending on your work history and how it relates to the job you are trying to get. You may also wish to include another section on your resume that includes something like Volunteer Experience or Other Experience. Regardless of how you title this section, you should have every job listing formatted in the same way. For most resumes, you should list your job title first. Highlight, italicize, or put this in bold so that it stands out. Next, list the name of the employer, followed by city and state of employment. Dates of employment are usually mentioned and should include month and year. Use bullet points to highlight your job duties, but remember to make it accomplishment-driven. Let's talk about the accomplishments-driven resume some more. Rather than just outlining a list of duties you performed in your previous jobs, you can go much further in impressing any potential employer by highlighting your accomplishments in those positions instead. Consider this. Everyone knows what the duties are for a grocery store cashier, but what if you accomplished much more on the job than the typical cashier? You want the employer to know this. Use numbers, percentages, data, and demographics to describe your accomplishments. Think about what you did to help the employer save money, time, or resources. Let's look at some examples of the duties versus the accomplishment-driven resume. Which example here tells the potential employer more? Certainly, it is much easier to be impressed for the person who taught advanced English for a large class at a certain level over the person who taught something for someone somewhere. Here's another example for the business resume. Note in these examples that the person has stressed how they helped the company rather than just list the duties they performed. Let's now bring all of these ideas together and look at a typical job listed on a resume. In this example, we see that this person highlighted the fact that they worked with 20 children on trips rather than just state that they led field trips. Also note that each bullet point starts with an action verb. Use action verbs to state your accomplishments in a very proactive way. Do not include periods at the end of bullet points. On most resumes, job experience should be listed in reverse chronological order. After experience, you may wish to include other sections on your resume, such as those listed here. Be sure that information you provide in these sections is relevant, related to the job you are trying to get, and is formatted in the same way as the rest of the resume. Here is an example of some information that might be included in a skills section of a resume. Be sure to note if you are fluent or conversational in another language. Do not abbreviate terms such as CPR, and only include skills that relate to the job. Let's briefly talk about the cover letter. Whenever you are applying for a job, you should include a cover letter, even if the advertisement for the job does not say that you need to submit one. However, the cover letter does not need to be long or complicated. Keep in mind that a cover letter is an introduction of you to the employer. It only needs to highlight key information about you in order to direct them to your resume and express an interest in the job. Be sure to address the letter with a specific name and/or job title of the person you are applying to. Try to avoid "to whom it may concern" on the letter. Keep the letter to 3 paragraphs. The first stating the job you are applying for, the second highlighting any skills or education that make you right for the job, and the third states your desire for an interview. The cover letter should be typed and centered on the page with no errors in spelling or grammar. Don't forget to sign the letter, and be sure to include enclosure, resume at the bottom of the page. Just as you should always include a cover letter with your resume, you should have a page of references ready as well. Let's talk a bit about your references. Try to get 3 to 5 references ready. The references should be on a separate sheet of paper with the same heading as the resume page. Be sure that the font and the paper used for the resume and cover letter is the same as the references page. By the way, your cover letter, resume, and references page should always be printed on resume quality paper in a neutral color. If you are having a hard time thinking of who to use as a reference, consider any of your professors or advisors at school, or supervisors or coworkers at any current or past jobs or internships. Do not use family or friends as references, and be sure that those you place on your sheet have agreed to be a reference. Each of your references should include the following information: name, job title, name of company, city, state, zip code, their phone number, and an email address. Be sure that you verify this information with your references before you submit them to an employer. If you would like more help on writing your resume, interviewing, job search, choosing a major, or more, please contact us at APU's Career Services. We're located in Magnolia Court, right next to the Student Health Center, or you can call us at 626-815-2103. We hope this information has been helpful to you as you prepare your resume, cover letter, and references as part of your job search. Thank you for looking to Career Services for help, and good luck to you in your future career.